Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Inspirational Interviews. I am Hannah Levin, and I am here with Jill. Jill, you want to introduce yourself?
My name's Jill Novak, and I'm a yoga health coach from the other side of the continent. I live outside of Calgary, Alberta.
Yay! So Jill and I met in yoga health coaching training, and we continued having a mastermind with a couple other people, and really enjoyed our last week's conversation about tongue analysis and tongue scraping and what we can learn from other people's tongues. That's kind of what we went through last week. So this week, I invited Jill back for us to talk about our senses, since we dived in to the mouth.
Yeah.
And I started just thinking like, oh, there's so many good things for us to learn about the eyes, the ears, the nose, the skin. And so I invited Jill back for us just to have a conversation. This might not be an interview, really, just more of a conversation with both of us sharing about senses. So before we went live, Jill, you were talking about just kind of noticing what our senses do. Will you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think last week when we were talking about tongue scraping, we're getting really practical, right? About Ayurveda's dinacharya, Ayurveda's daily routine.
Yeah.
But Ayurveda's purposeful daily routine always has a deeper layer. And what I really have begun to honor, I think, past the dinacharya piece, past that piece, is the fact that our five senses are sort of like they're antennas out of our body going into the world. And they are basically saying to us all the time, like, oh, that's interesting over there. That smell is good. That looks really nice. That fabric feels fantastic. Like we're being drawn to things that we're attracted to. And at the same time, our senses are doing the same filtering, showing us what we are, what can cause danger to us. Like think about smelling smoke when there's a fire, right? You can tell right away if it's like that beautiful wood campfire smell, or if like that's dangerous, like that's not supposed to be a smell right now. A noise can do that. A taste can do that. Like they show us what's dangerous. They show us what could cause us harm. And so these senses are on all the time. You can even think about waking up in the middle of the night after hearing a noise and your senses just being on high alert, paying attention to if you're in danger. And Ayurveda has this beautiful, like, you need to come back and pay attention to these senses and honor them. And I think we can do it in even small ways. Like we know when you're driving in a car and maybe there's other people in the vehicle and it's noisy. Maybe you just have the radio on, but your body tells you just turn off the radio, and you turn it off and you can feel your whole body just say, thank you. And I just feel like that's how we want to honor our senses. You know, when your eyes are going all cross-eyed because you've been looking at a screen too long, honor that.
Yeah.
Shut them down. When your ears tell you they've had enough, turn off the US politics.
Yes.
even in Canada, that's what we watch. US politics. You know, like our body has to digest everything it brings in. So make good choices, even about the stuff you listen to, the stuff you see, the stuff you know, that you touch, that you come in contact with, you smell, taste, like all of the senses. We need to just honor them more.
Yeah. I love that idea of discerning. Like we are overstimulated most of the time.
Yeah.
We're watching things, we're listening to things, we're eating things. Like, you know, most people don't eat a mono diet, right? So you're eating things, you know, you may have 3 meals a day that are, what's that?
Fusion cuisine from like every little part of the world. We can get food from every corner of the world now.
Right, exactly. And so even throughout a day, your taste buds might travel the world. And we're so we're taking in, we're overstimulated, which is Vata aggravating, and we're in Vata season right now. And we were talking too about like coming up to the winter solstice. So this is naturally the quiet, darkest like what the natural forces, what the Earth's energy, what's happening
It's
in the
time
natural
has been
world.
ground down.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had an ice storm here today. I'm looking out the window beyond my computer here, and the trees are covered with ice. And it just
Wow.
feels like this invitation of just like just wrap up in a blanket and just be still.
Yes.
Like that's kind of what the trees are doing today. It's like
Yeah.
wrapping up in this blanket of ice. And yet we're really stimulated by the
Mhm.
holidays, by needing to be social and get gifts to everybody. And even if we're not traveling or moving around because of COVID, we're still like stimulated by this time and by
It's
light when it's dark.
it's part of our tradition, isn't it? It's almost
Yeah.
like we built this tradition around the holidays that we add more light when there isn't any light. We add more food when it feels like it's boring. Foods, like we don't actually allow ourselves to settle into the invitation of solstice.
Mhm.
Here in way north, it is dark by 5 p.m. every day, and it does
Mm.
not get light till 8 a.m. right now. And
Wow.
that's a long time to be in darkness. And
Mhm.
um, I really do think there's a reason why we added all this extra light, all this extra stimulation around the holiday season, because it could get kind of down, but at the same time, it's almost like there's an invitation we're missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's a saying in Ayurveda, which is that we are only as old as our senses.
Wow.
Or if we take care of our senses, we can stay young. Because if
Mhm.
you think about it, like if you think of elders that you know that have really acute hearing or seeing, or they're adept on their feet, like they can walk, 95-year-old people that are like, walking
Mobile.
champs. They're not
Mhm.
wobbly or whatever. It's like they're incredible, right? Or older people that can taste things, that can really be like, wow, I love all these flavors. A lot of folks as they age lose their sense of taste, and sweet, which is
Mhm.
related to earth, is the last taste to go. Um,
Isn't
oh,
it interesting too that one of the COVID symptoms is you lose your
losing taste.
taste and you lose your smell?
Yeah.
Super interesting.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
And
Yeah.
so Ayurveda's invitation then is to like just use the word discernment, and the yoga word for that in the sutras is viveka,
Uh-huh.
keen discernment. Like have keen discernment. Allow your senses to continue to draw you to that which is supportive and comforting and nourishing for you, and allow your senses to show you what you need to just stay away from.
Right. Yeah, letting them guide you instead of like imposing things on them.
Which
Uh,
we do. Yeah.
right.
Let them guide you. So it's
Yeah.
almost like it's a new relationship to these senses than you've had
Mhm.
before. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's powerful. And I know for myself, just doing practices like eye exercises or
Mm.
nausea, which will explain what these things are, or oil pulling
Yeah.
or ear oiling. All of those things are um, at first they're like, oh my gosh, who would do that, or who has time
Mm.
for it, or what good will that do? But it makes a huge difference.
Yes.
And and um and then I get feedback like from my dentist or from my eye doctor that's like, like your teeth are beautiful, like what have
Yeah.
you been doing? I'm like,
Yeah. I've been
I
oil pulling.
will pull. Yeah, like I go in and they're like, why don't you have plaque on your teeth? you know like,
Yeah.
well, I do this thing called oil pulling that's been around for thousands of years. So,
Yeah.
so let's segue into talking about some of the things that we can do. So, I just want to reiterate what Jill was saying earlier, which is that one of the best things we can do for our senses is to ask less of them,
Yeah.
to give them a break,
Or
right?
or be constructive in creating downtime for them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
dimly
Yeah.
lit bathroom, nice warm bath, beautiful essential oils. Like you're just taking care of every one of your senses if you
Yeah.
even creating that environment for yourself.
Yeah. And thinking about those types of environments, when we show up to something like that, like a warm bath with essential oils and candlelight, they appeal to us in this way that feels so meaningful and rich, rather than, jamming out the stereo, pouring a bath, trying to talk to somebody on the phone and having all the lights on in the bathroom, right? It's a totally different experience, but there's like this inner nourishment. It builds ojas, right? Like the essential vitality sap, that's like that nourishment, because the senses are attended to in that experience, and we're drawn to those things.
Yeah. And then we just touched on before we went live too, on this idea of our sixth sense. And if we thought about our sixth sense as our intuition, our gut instinct, our inner knowing, our inner wisdom, and how when we actually take time to let all these other senses sort of declutter, it's like we're pulling the filter out of the nose and shaking it out. That's what we're doing with tongue scraping, really. We're taking out the taste filter, and we're cleaning out the filter so that it can be clear again. The filter can be really clean. And when those filters of our five senses can be really clean, then we have this access to our sixth sense, our intuition. And that's where the yoga and Ayurveda join. And it's like we have this dharma, your life purpose. All of that starts to be able to just get juicier and richer and more alive and more possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes about because of our dinacharya, because of our Ayurvedic daily habits of self-care, especially around these senses.
Yeah. I love it. All right. So let's dive into some practical application. Shall we start with the eyes?
Okay.
I think that's a good one. That's one that I think a lot of my clients never realized that you could like do things for your eyes. It's just like, well, if you have bad vision or cataracts or glaucoma or whatever it is, you just have that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But what are some of your favorite things to do for your eyes? And then I'll add on.
Honestly, like the easiest one for my eyes is to close them.
Yes.
And like, just think about that. It is that easy. If you don't want to come up with any complicated practices, it's that easy. Close them. Like, stop looking at a computer screen. Of course, just like this idea of having warm palms and taking the heavy weight of your warm palms and pressing.
Yeah, we do that in chair yoga every Friday. Oh. Yeah, you can do that now, everybody, if you want to.
Yeah,
it feels
so. You can also do it with an eye bag, and the eye bag could have some essential oil on it, and just let the flax seeds or the rice or whatever's in your eye bag, let the heaviness of that just rest on your eyes. Didn't you say sight is pitta? It's the fire element?
It is, yeah. And we have Agni, one of the Agnis, the digestive fires, is in the eyes. And so it is a digestion. We have to take in information through our eyes and make sense of it.
Yeah.
And that can get overwhelming. And many of us are overstimulated day after day after day through our eyes.
You think about people who see something, like our first responders, who see stuff that's really, really hard to digest. And it is like, that's what creates that PTSD. When you've got an image that is burned into your mind and your body doesn't know how to process that image. Yeah. It's hard. And so that's a really good example of just when the really extreme moment that you recognize that what you bring into your body needs to be digested. Yeah, it does. Yeah. So I'm going to add on a couple of things to eye care. So one is eye exercises. So we do these here in this group on Fridays in chair yoga. We always do an eye exercise at the end. So it's basically stretching your eyes
And that can be lots of different things, but either imagining a huge clock face in front of you and you're keeping your head still, but you're looking up as high as you can and then tracing your eyes around the periphery, pushing the vision out to the edge as far as you can the whole way around. And you can do that several times in one direction, then the other. And it strengthens the ocular nerve and the muscles around the eyes. And so it's really helpful for for the for agility as well, and being able to have peripheral vision, because a lot of people just look straight ahead or maybe look a little to the sides but not really push out to the sides. So that can be also doing vertical lines up and down, going across the horizon. It can be drawing infinity signs with the eyes, right? So any of those things are really helpful, and your eyes will get tired doing that, which is kind of interesting, just to be like, whoa, imagine actually what I'm asking them to do every day. Also looking far away and close up, like really giving your eyes practice of looking into the distance and then looking at something close up. So you're practicing focal length. And then one that has helped so many clients who struggle with dry eye is putting ghee or castor oil in your eyes before you go to sleep. And that's just pulling down the lower lid, putting a little drop. Most people like castor oil on their finger, and then putting that in the lower lid, blinking around a little bit, and then going to sleep. And castor oil also has the benefit of nourishing your eyelashes. So it makes your eyelashes grow better while you're nourishing your eyes. And so that is like castor oil and ghee are just really moisturizing, really nourishing.
I didn't know that part. That's awesome.
Yeah. So those are some good things for the eyes.
They're also like that exercise is also really good for because you're slowing down, because you're taking the time out. It's really good rebuilding exercise when you're recovering from any sort of concussion or head injury, or even just a cold where you've been feeling really groggy and foggy. Just that kind of slow, gentle use of eyes is a good sort of entry point again into when things get busy again.
Yeah, definitely.
Nourishing.
Wonderful. Yeah, Robin just wrote in and said that her eyes are more sensitive to sunlight than they used to be. I'm wondering if looking at bright screens has contributed to that. It scares me a little. Yeah, I think that could be a culprit. And the sun also has less filtration than it used to have. So it could be that it's brighter. Also, the lighter your eyes are, the more sensitive they are to the sun. So those of us that have blue eyes are, I find this in my family. I'm always putting on sunglasses, and my brown-eyed folks are all like, we're fine.
Yeah.
So, let's move on to, so eyes are associated with fire, which can also be the energy of being joyful and passionate. And think about how you can see like the light in somebody's eyes, or the inspiration, or the playfulness.
Yeah. And this idea that they say that when you have too much pitta in your eyes, you're always like, you're trying to like look for everything, right? And instead, is it possible for you to, and this is just a mental game, almost like just to sit back and let your eyes receive, rather than them sort of being like laser focused, trying to get everything. It's almost like, can you sit back and just let your eyes receive? It's something that you do automatically when you're outside in nature. Could you practice that?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
So what's the next one, Hannah?
What do you want to do? Why don't you pick?
Touch is my next favorite.
Okay.
Because, and Ayurveda takes this one very specifically into, it's almost like it takes it out of just nurturing senses and puts it in its own category, because your skin is like your body's biggest detox organ.
Right.
And our touch is so important. So the idea of Abhyanga is one of the Dinacharya, is one of the rituals that they would say, like, keep your body moist by drinking lots of water, but also allow your skin to absorb moisture and put oil on it. And so
Yeah.
oiling
So
your
for those,
skin.
I was just going to say, for
Give
those
us
of
a
you who don't
definition.
know
Yeah.
this term Abhyanga, it's oil massage
Mhm.
itself. So you can do self oil
Oil
massage.
massage.
You can also get an Abhyanga from somebody who is a Ayurveda trained massage therapist. But you can do Abhyanga. Many of us do them most days, covering our bodies in oil. And it doesn't make you like super duper oily. You don't put that much on. But yeah, you can. I actually have this little oil pump here at my desk that I have just to like pump. I actually earlier was rubbing it on my arms and elbows and hands.
Yes.
Because I get really dry in this time of
Yes.
year.
And
Yeah,
this is
so
goddess season. And so
right.
winter season is known for its dryness. Like one of the qualities of winter is dryness. And we start to feel it happening. And that's when we almost want to add more oil. And it can be your whole body, like long strokes over the bones and circles over the joints. When I'm done, and there's still oil on my hands, I'll take my pinky fingers and I'll rub it inside my ears and even go up into my nostrils.
Yeah.
They say to do it before a shower and then have a quick shower. Although where I live, we literally live in a place with zero humidity, like zero humidity. So you can just feel, if you've gone on a nice vacation and you land back in Calgary, you get off the plane, you can feel the air going, it's like sucking all the moisture out of your body. So here it just is like Abhyanga can, I think, save your life.
Yeah. But after a shower, right? You do it after.
Well, here you can do it after a shower. I don't know what it's like where you've got more moisture in the air. Maybe it feels like there's more residue or something. But here you put it on your body is just like so thankful.
Yeah.
It just sucks it all
Thirsty.
up and it's very thirsty.
Yeah.
But that one, I think that is one of my winter and my solstice favorites. I also feel like Abhyanga has this ability to, it's like you're putting this coating on yourself and it feels like this extra layer of protection or this. And I feel like that almost energetically. So right here, our COVID rules have made it so that we're not going to see a lot of like Christmas parties or socialization or even family members. But, you know, this time of year usually is when we are going into those extroverted situations. And it's a beautiful time for me to just layer that piece of oil over myself. So I feel a little bit protected energetically when I'm going into those situations that can feel just a little bit challenging.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like I love just coating myself, putting my cozy sweats on and my cozy sweatshirt and allowing that nourishment.
It is a layer of protection, and it's really, really lovely. And it nourishes the skin biome too. If we want to look at it, more scientifically, our skin, like our gut, has a microbiome that needs to be nourished. And so, especially if you're using a lot of antibacterial soaps,
right,
that's not good. Yeah.
Every time you go somewhere, you have to pump on
your hand. Or the gel or whatever. We want to replenish the good microbiome on our skin, and oiling your skin will definitely do that.
Food grade, like you have whatever you put on your skin, you have to be willing to like take a scoop and eat it.
Right. Yeah. So that's a good point. You don't want to put anything on your skin that you wouldn't eat. And Robin just posted too, I love dry brushing and oiling. I use the Banyan Botanicals ashwagandha bala oil. I never oiled before this group recommended it. Yeah. And so Banyan Botanicals, you can get all sorts of oils there. You could eat them if you wanted to, but they're made to put on your skin. But the ashwagandha bala oil is particularly good for this time of year. Ashwagandha and bala are two herbs that are particularly grounding and nourishing for Vata.
Yeah.
Let's move on because we're running out of time.
Okay.
So I do want to just say that touch is associated with the element of air, which is a Vata element. So getting and if you've ever met, we have one of Otis's my stepson's friends is very Vata. Like he has a little friend who's 12 and like very Vata. And if you just go over to him and put your hands on his shoulders, he'll just like calm, you know? And I was explaining that to like the group of parents, like he's just, his Vata is just elevated, you know? And if you think about kids that are diagnosed with ADD or hyperactivity, you know, all those things, like they need like just some grounding, and that sense of touch brings them back down. You know, it's just like,
it can be as easy too as like put a scarf on around your
right.
neck, like
Or weighted blankets are
a
really
weighted blanket, like throw in, I don't know what you guys call them. We call them a toque. Like you put your toque on and pull it onto your head. And just sometimes it's weight, sometimes it's like just feeling like you're adding that really heavy layer on yourself.
Yeah.
That's a super lovely grounding thing. That's why we all feel like in winter we want to curl up on a couch with a big blanket on us.
Right.
It's because we want warm and we want heavy right now.
Yeah.
Those are two qualities that help nourish us in winter season.
Yeah.
Heavy and warm.
That touch is really nice. Yeah. So let's talk about our sense of hearing, or our ears, our sense organ of the ears. And this organ and sense is associated with space, which is the other Vata, Vata sense. And when we hear things that are lovely, it's very inspiring for us. Think about hearing music that you really love, or the voice of somebody who is dear to you, or the sound of dinner cooking, or these things that that we hear. But as you said too, we can also be overstimulated. The music can be too loud. We can be listening to too much of the news. We can be having multiple things on at the same time. We can be trying to watch TV and have a phone conversation. I mean, there's a million things, right? Like that the ears can take in. So we want to think about, how do we simplify and clarify? And what are some of, you mentioned putting oil in your ears with your fingers.
Yeah. And you would, that's like in terms of sleeping at night and things like that, sometimes it's nice to just put even more. Like if you could just wipe the insides of your ears with your pinkies, but you could also just put some of that oil on a cotton ball and like just close your ears off for a little while. Yeah. And allow yourself to have that time where you're just like, okay, ears, like I'm not going to make you have to do any work right now.
Yeah. And one interesting thing too is for self-massage is to actually massage the ears. And some people don't realize how much tension they might be holding in their ears. So actually like pulling down on your earlobes and pulling out on the sides and giving yourself a little massage, especially around this outer edge of the ear. It can be really tender. Because there's so much tension, we don't think of our ears as holding up.
Yeah.
But, and also the area like here that connects, that little spot where it connects, where the ear at the top connects to your head, that can often feel really nice to just release that, that area. And the ears are like, oh, nice.
This is where like essential oils, because you could do like that peppermint right in back here, right? And just, that's cool. I often forget the idea of like just touching. And it's almost like there's cranial sacral stuff happening there too.
Yeah. Very, very powerful. So oiling your ears is lovely. Yeah. And you can even, if you wanted an even deeper treatment than the cotton balls in your ears are putting, just finger with some oil in there, is you can lay on one side, fill your ear canal with oil and lay there for like 20 minutes, put some old towels or paper towels underneath you, roll over, and then do the other side, let that ear drain out. This is great for Vata calming. And then for cleanup, you can clean out the outer ear, but don't clean the inner ear. Let that oil sit in there.
And would you use any Abhyanga oil, any oil that you would use on your body? Would you use in your ears, or do you feel like you need to be more selective?
I would suggest using sesame oil for that specifically. Yeah.
And sesame oil has the quality of being warming. So that's, and maybe, so That's neat because it's oil, heavy, grounding, nourishing, and it's warming for winter.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
So cool.
Let's see. Let's go to the nose since we're sticking oil in orifices now. So the nose, there's a practice in Ayurveda called Nasya, which I have talked about in some of the yoga videos. I've shown, I know at least one, I showed how to do Nasya, which I do every morning before I meditate. One version of Nasya, which is I put a little drop of Nasya oil, which is basically sesame oil with some essential oils in it. Rub my pinkies together, stick my pinkies up my nose and massage around there. And then I kind of go like this and work it around in there. And then that oils the tissue on the inside of the nose. It also coats the nasal hairs, and actually oiling the nasal passages and the ears is one of the best things you can do to protect yourself with viruses like COVID.
Yes, exactly. And you're keeping, like, the word ojas comes up again because it's the container of your body. And it's like, you want that container to be very solid and you don't want it to get cracks in it, right? So when it gets really dried out and there's cracks in it, that's how these viruses and things get in. And if you think of, I think of a piece of pottery, you know, or my teak coffee table that needs to be oiled all the time so it doesn't get too dried out. And it's the same for our body. Like, offer it this nourishment and it will do great things for you.
Yes. Yes. It's so nice. Yeah. And Robin just asked, can you use the bala oil for your ears? Yes, you can. You can definitely use that. So a more traditional way of doing Nasya is to lay down with a support underneath your neck, tip your head back and put 2 to 5 drops in each nostril and let it drain back into your sinuses and into your head and lay there for a while. And you can kind of give yourself a massage around your nose and in your sinuses. And that's really, well, the ancient texts say it like lubricates the brain. So maybe it gets there somehow, but.
And usually right now, the neti pot is the other sort of thing for the nose that we do in terms of just like letting that saline water move through the sinuses and get rid of all the gunk and stuff. Because it is so dry here, we have to be kind of careful doing too much neti. Yeah. Catching up if you feel like you're getting really mucousy, really full, and you need those cavities to be drained. But at the same time, the Nasya, the just keeping things lubricated feels like it's important this season.
Yes. And one caveat to Nasya and neti is that you don't want to do them right next to each other in your daily routine. Because oil and water don't mix together. And sometimes if you were to do Nasya and then you did neti, the water can push the oil back further than it needs to go and then create infection. So I really recommend for most folks to do those at different times of the day, maybe Nasya in the morning and neti in the evening. And like you said, neti is drying. Yeah. So when you feel like you're having some congestion come in, you might want a neti pot. Whenever I feel like I have a little tickle in my throat, some postnasal drip, I'll neti pot. Yeah. But if I feel like it's dryness, which is definitely more typical of this time of year, definitely Nasya, doing the oil. Awesome.
Yeah, and that same thing, like when you're done a neti pot, you're going to have to clean, you might have to carry a Kleenex around with you for a minute because you'll find that, or if you neti pot and then do some yoga, you might find that you tip your head upside down, you've still got stuff draining out a little bit. So yeah, I think that makes sense. I like how you said that oil and water don't mix. That's a good mental picture of those two pieces and why you would do them separately.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So neti pot, for folks that don't know, is having a little teapot. I actually have one here. Actually, I have one in my office here.
When you haven't done it, it looks very strange, but after a while, you're like, well, that looks like you water plants with it.
You're right. It's like beautiful. I remember when I was. Well, my nephew is now 13, but I remember when he was about 2, I was visiting my sister and I was getting ready to neti pot and my sister was trying to distract my nephew. And she goes, "Hey, Oscar, you want to see Aunt Hannah put a teapot up her nose?" And he was like, "Yeah,
that'd be great."
Yeah. So this is kind of a traditional copper one from India. So you'd fill it with warm saline water or put a little non-iodized salt and then stick this up your nose and then tilt your head over and the water will run up and up and then out the other nostril, and then you do the other side.
Yeah.
So it's very nice if you tend to have more cophogenic issues of congestion, getting that stuff cleared up.
And sometimes that is like when you feel something coming on, it's really hard to use the neti pot when you're already really congested.
Yes.
So it's almost like it, and these are the sorts of things that Ayurveda asks us to do. Like, can you be in tune with your body? Can you know, like, oh, I can feel something coming on. What do I need to do to support it? And that neti pot can be one of those things that you bring in when you can feel this sort of congestion building.
The first little sign.
Yes. Because if you can catch it at the first little signs, it can do wonders.
Yeah. It can also be helpful when you're traveling. Not that many of us are doing that, but like just to arrive somewhere and neti pot, just like clear out whatever you took in during the trip. Okay, last one, taste. So we did tongue scraping.
Yeah.
But the mouth. Or the mouth.
Well, so tongue scraping, let's say that we covered that pretty well last week. And then the other one and again, it comes back to oil.
Yeah. Oil in the orifices.
Oil in the orifices. You're lucky Hannah and I are only talking about orifices up here.
Right.
We'll save that for another too long. Yeah. But yeah, this is one that you were saying before we came live. I think it was before we came live, just about how your dentist can be like a little bit thrilled at what's going on in your mouth, or when you've had, even sometimes you could use it as like, I've had something in my mouth and I know that I'm getting rid of an infection. I'm getting rid of something. I can feel a sore throat, or I have a canker sore, or I have a cold sore. Like there's things like that. Like just bring this oil in. You only need like a teaspoon to tablespoon. I tend to need a bit more, or else I feel like I don't have enough. And then you're just swishing it.
Here's Banyan's.
Daily swish. I love it.
They're so I keep this actually at my desk. I have all these things at my desk because I live at my desk.
Well, also because you have to leave it in your mouth for a long time. Well, you don't, but it's like 5 minutes to like 20 minutes. So sometimes it's almost easier to be doing it while you're doing something, so that you're not just wandering around your bathroom looking at your watch, right?
Right. Yeah. So I have at other times in my life kept this in the shower and have done it when I'm in the shower. Now I do it when I'm working on things at my desk, when I'm not on calls or whatever. I can just do it. But the important thing with this is that you don't spit it down your drain, because you don't want to put oil down your drain. So go spit it outside or in your trash can if you can't go outside. But don't put it in your toilet or down your drain. Over time, that creates plumbing issues. And your plumber will be like, what the heck have you been doing? And like, oil pulling. But another good thing to do is after you oil pull and you spit out the oil is to stick your finger in your mouth and actually massage your gums.
Oh, cool.
So you can just, kind of invigorate your gums a little bit from, and that can be really quick too. Just like a quick little, just like getting that oil.
There is the piece that's so interesting in Ayurveda is that they put a lot of stock into your own hands going on your own body, don't they? Yeah. And they just talk about, the whole dinacharya, the whole habits that you're developing when you're learning Ayurveda is about you learning you. And so while someone else can give you a massage and you can receive the data that you're bringing in through your fingertips, connecting to your own tissue, isn't like that. The feedback loop isn't complete. Whereas when you're massaging yourself, and I like even how you brought it to like your ears, or like, I'm going to make sure that the oil is in all the different parts of my nose and I'm going to feel that. I'm going to feel my gums. Like, I think that there's something really deliberate in how Ayurveda asks us to put our own hands on our own tissue.
Yes. Yeah. And we've been trained to visit doctors to tell us what's going on in our bodies. But when we create a familiarity with the intimate geography of our physical temple. Really, it's like this container that we get to inhabit for this life journey. It's so great to know it. And with that, like back to the massage or abhyanga or dry brushing, I have found that to be really powerful. I bet you have too, Jill, with yourself, but then also with clients who have parts of their bodies that they really reject or don't feel comfortable with, and just like building a relationship with, you know, your belly post childbirth, or your thighs, you know, when you're 60, or whatever it is that you're just like, this part of me, I reject it. And then bringing in this like loving touch of being like, but it's part of this vessel, and it is beautiful and honorable and purposeful in its own way. And that integration is so incredibly powerful.
That for me has been it for Ayurveda. Like, I just feel like learning Ayurveda for me has been like this. It's like, it's this hacking guide into learning myself.
Yeah.
So it's like Ayurveda goes, well, I can't give you the instruction manual for you, but I can help you write your instruction manual. Follow these steps, and then you will know your own instruction manual. And that's what I think the brilliance of this is.
Absolutely.
So bringing it back to our five senses, I just think that, gosh, like they are our radar into the world. And if we every once in a while just say, okay, I'm closing down the radar system and I'm going to draw inward, like that word in yoga, in the 8 limbs of yoga is pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses, because our senses need time. They need their downtime. So if you can develop any practices to pratyahara, withdraw your senses, bring them inward, take them in and take care of them. Gosh, like that to me is just like this beautiful invitation. I love how everything, like that's a yoga word, pratyahara. It's one of the 8 limbs of yoga. And yet over here in Ayurveda land, it's giving us all the practices to be able to know how to practice pratyahara.
And we also have one of the causes of disease is disrespecting
the senses.
Right? Prajna parada. So both of those are addressed in this lineage of yoga and Ayurveda. Is we take care of our senses, and when we disrespect our senses, we get sick.
Get disease.
So how about an invitation to you all who are watching and will watch? You can type in #replay when you watch the replay on here, and let us know, like, what is it that you're taking away from this conversation. And I encourage you to start noticing all that your senses do. Start noticing.
And that's the first step. Just notice. Just notice what they're telling you. Notice the little tiny nudges that they're giving you to go there, or don't go that way, or I want more of that, or I want less. So
important. Well, wow, we have.
You and I always go over. You got it. We have to remember this. Thank you, Hannah.
Always a pleasure talking with you. Thank you. And I think folks will learn a lot from this. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your week. And thank you, Jill, for being here today and sharing your wisdom and knowledge and insights from your journey with us.
Thanks for having me. And thanks. I love juicy conversations.
Yes. To be continued, perhaps.
Yeah.
Great. Take care.
Thank you.